you have to really consider the idea of, do you think that people are putting their efforts in the wrong direction if they want to be property investors? Like, it seems the idea of using equity is just so much more attractive than going, what could you do to earn 25 grand extra a year or 50 grand extra a year, where your borrowing power would be increased and your ability to come up with new deposits and contribute cash to the portfolio would be different.
Totally. I think that, not enough thought is put into how do I expand my income, or even to the other side of it, not enough thought is put into like what happens if I lost my income generating, or my partner lost their income generation, right? Like, let's imagine this portfolio has to survive for a little bit while someone's looking for a new job. Or what happens if, knock on wood, like the unforeseen happens, like, I don't know, one of the properties needs a major renovation and cash needs to be put in on it, right? And you've just maxed everything out. Like, what happens if it's no tenant for 3 months, right? It's empty and we need to put cash in on it. Like, where's that cash going to come from? I think not enough effort, or even what we've seen is the interest rates increasing and the cost for these properties and insurance increasing, and cost as well is continuing. I just don't think enough effort's put on that as a thought, and people just go, I'll just always be able to weather the storm. And it's layering those two on top of each other of going, well, how do I play it in the best case scenarios and the worst case scenarios? And it comes back to what you and I have spoken about quite a lot, which is that sleep at night factor. Man, I sleep at night pretty, going, you know what, anything can happen on these properties. Man, I can go get things fixed. I can extract some equity if I desperately need to do a major renovation. But I'm like, I don't need to. Like, it's just, I'm happy with where I'm at. I just don't think people put enough thought to it.
That is the ultimate view I share with you on this one. I enjoy the sleep at night factor. I really do. And I look at it and go, another thing I think about often when it comes to this topic, let's pretend that Australia goes through a period of time where property isn't in a good place. Okay, prices come down. Like, and I mean, you could argue that's kind of happening at the moment, right? Prices have definitely come down in certain areas. If you're overextended with borrowing and prices come down, you're locked out of the game.
Completely locked out.
Yeah, but if you're in a strong position where let's say you've left 20% deposits and property comes down 10%, you're still in the green, right? You're still in a positive position. But not only that, is you might actually be in a position to capitalize on opportune markets. So I often look at this and go, okay, cool. I could see that there is potential to do well through the use of equity. And I know there's people out there right now screaming because they've done well using equity and they are outraged by our views grant. But on the other side of things, I look at it and go, because of the way I've approached things, like, I've actually been able to take on advantages and opportune things that they wouldn't have been.
Totally.
And I suspect I've probably beaten them because of I've been able to do that, right? Yep. There's things you can get access to that you just can't if you're overextended.
It'd be interesting to look back at the statistics of like how many people sort of wiped themselves out or created a glass ceiling by just trying to do like this idea of just more and more, versus the people who have just like been, I don't know, like they just had this perfect timing and luck was on their side.
Do you know what? It's not wipeouts. I've thought about this as well, right?
It's the ceilings.
The reality is that the wipeouts aren't as common as you would think. And don't get me wrong, people end up in challenging circumstances, but they just sell a property, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they get into such dire needs. I will also say that in Australia, it's fascinating where people will literally, until they can't feed themselves, hold a property.
Pay their property.
Yeah, it's actually one of the reasons I invest in property is because that's the mentality.
The irrational Australians.
Yeah, well, I can't see fire sailing happening. Because I suspect we'd see people stealing food before we'd see people selling their property.
But do you see the glass ceiling though? Like, do you see them hitting up against the ceiling?
It's a trap. This is what happens. People who get overextended, and I sadly know some people in this time where it's like, let's say they were in a really good position coming out of the end of the pandemic, right? So they're in that situation there. All of a sudden, they've used equity to do it, got to frame it up. Rates have gone up and put the squeeze on everything, and they are at a stop.
Yep.
So they've got no lending available to them now because their costs have gone up to run the portfolio. They've also potentially had some insurance costs and things like that come up where, again, they've ended up in a stop. But the real constraint is that they're now having to contribute cash to this portfolio month on month to keep it going. So the amount of free or available cash coming from their income that they have available, gone.
Yep.
So they're in this mentality of they've just got to grind and wait it out. And I think that's the real challenge here is like, as an investor and a property investor, I don't think that's the position you want to be coming from.
All right, fellow property investor, if you loved the value from this short video and wanted to know more about how you can win at property investing, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now. Alternatively, click subscribe and you'll never miss another one of these videos.